you think is a great problem for Africa in African trade is lack of trade information. We need to connect the buyers and the sellers. We need to make somebody in Somalia to know that Sudan is a market. We need to make sure that somebody in Kenya knows that Burundi is a market. Today, everybody looks out of Africa if they want to do any international business. We have to change that. And to begin to change that, we need to make information available to the people who are engaged in this trade. Because of many years of colonial relationships, even the information flows are not going across borders. They go from the old colonies to the metropolitan countries. The Inter-African Trade Fair is our solution to that. We hope that when we hold it for that 1 week, we will enable African countries to showcase what they offer, the investment opportunities they offer. We will make it possible for African businesses to see what exists in other African countries.
It's been 3 months and only 3 countries have ratified: Rwanda, Ghana, and Kenya. And already people are talking and saying this could be dead even before it starts. Are you worried? Are you concerned that it's taking too long for countries to come on board?
No, because the Continental Free Trade Area was signed just on March 20, just 2 months ago. The process of ratification in many countries, because many African countries are non-democratic, the process requires that it goes to parliament and then certain things be done and so on. These things take time. I think many of the countries are going through that process. I believe that the timelines that the African Union have set to bring the agreement into force, I believe they will achieve it.
Skeptics will say we don't even trade with each other within the regional economic commissions. Probably the only one that is working is the East African Community and SADC to some extent. So they're asking then, how do we get 55 African countries to trade with each other? We have the language barriers, we have the borders. Will it work?
But the people who say this have not factored in the informal sector. The informal sector is largely sub-regional, and it's large. The estimate is that the informal sector is about $40 billion. $40 billion is about between 25 to 30% of the estimated total intra-African trade. We found that the countries with the best matching trade profiles are actually in different sub-regions. That is why you have perhaps much greater trade today between maybe South Africa and Nigeria, for example. So when we integrate, when we have bigger number of countries, the universe for two-way exchanges increases. That will create a value chain that will even increase sub-regional trade.
Infrastructure still remains a problem. You cannot drive all the way across the continent because there are no roads. The rail facilities are also not in place, and some places, even the ports. So infrastructure, how do we deal with the issue? We
agree that infrastructure is a problem, but we say that infrastructure is a generalized problem. It is a constraint to Africa's development. It is a constraint to Africa's total trade. It is not a constraint specific to intra-African trade. And we always ask this question, that the stock of infrastructure, the ports, the roads, the railways in Africa can carry $1 trillion of total African trade. Why is intra-African trade share of that $1 trillion just 15%? Why doesn't it rise to 40%? Before we start saying, okay, remove the constraint of infrastructure, and it will grow overall trade and also grow intra-African trade further. And People then say, because infrastructure is a problem for intra-African trade, invest in infrastructure. Government should invest. Government should invest. I agree. But the governments in Africa do not have the fiscal space to build and expect businesses to follow. It's only countries like China that have the access, they have the fiscal capacity that can do that, and they're doing that. In the African context, we need to make sure that trade leads infrastructure investment, because that is where you are also crowding the private sector that will support whatever investment the government sector is doing to be able to build those infrastructure.
Further afield now, where the latest